In this video, I'm going to show you as a manager how to turn the fear of having a difficult conversation and stepping up and leading by having courageous conversations. Now, you know you need to have this conversation. Your team members around you know you need to address the situation. The person or people involved are expecting you to say something, and your manager and other managers in the business are expecting you to sort things out. So it's time to embrace courageous conversations. As I've said, stop having what we feel difficult conversations and reframe it to courageous conversations. Now, straight away, we're moving from a negative thought process of fear, oh gosh, I don't want to have to do this, oh, do I really have to talk to those people, to hey, I'm in control here, I'm the right person to have courageous conversations that have good future outcomes. They're outcome-based conversations rather than worrying and looking at the negatives. So this, unfortunately, could be a whole series of different conversations that are happening in the work environment. It could be bad news. Someone hasn't got a promotion and you've got to give them that feedback. It could be, unfortunately, people losing their jobs or poor performance or perhaps disciplinary situations. It could be sensitive personal matters or perhaps feedback from colleagues or even clients. So to help us get up and running with these types of conversations, the first step is be honest. Be honest with yourself, be honest with your people, and be honest with the business. And deal with and explain the situation. And that is really, really key, and it's making sure that you provide the right type of information. So there may be a company reorganisation, explain the facts. Maybe feedback from clients, missed targets or delays. Make sure you've got the right information and be honest. You don't need to dress it up. On a personal note, I've quite often had to have these conversations as a manager and getting them to realise that they just weren't suited for that type of job anyway. Or perhaps helping them to realise that before we got to that stage. By just having those conversations, what else would you prefer to do with your career? What is it you really enjoy or don't enjoy about your work? What are your aspirations? What do you want to spend the next 40 years doing? Because that's how long we're going to have to be in the working environment. Be honest with people. Don't dress it up. Get to the crux of the situation, explain it. Step 2 is give people time to respond. Now, there could be a lot of emotion. Don't interrupt. Listen. Seek to understand. If appropriate, ask them about their feelings or their thoughts. If they don't naturally show emotion, ask why certain things have happened. How do they feel it came to this situation? Don't try and come up with any solutions. We'll deal with that a bit later. Just listen. On a personal note, I had to spend some time with a director who was just about to get sacked for, unfortunately, disciplinary reasons. And it was full of emotion, lots of tears, lots of blame, lots of finger pointing. But I just sat and listened and let them just offload. And afterwards they said, thank you for just listening and letting me offload. They did actually appreciate that. No solutions, know what you should have done. Or what you need to do in the future, just give them time. Step 3 is understand their situation. And as you know, I've already sort of mentioned, don't start jumping in with solutions. You're still trying to help them deal with the situation. So you show that you've listened to them. And if they do find it difficult to get their point of view across, try and ask them some questions that they can easily answer. Summarise what they've said. So what you're saying to me is that you feel that you actually haven't been listened to in the past, or you feel that that's been really unfair because those other people got that opportunity. Be human. Sometimes you need to sort of show your own vulnerabilities and say, I can understand why you felt that way, and perhaps I'd have felt the same way in that situation. These can be really emotional conversations, and it does need someone to be courageous and have them. Now, before we move into step 4, what is really important as a manager is that people will tell you all sorts of things, and sometimes you'll think, my goodness, I didn't really need to know that. And in some ways that's good because they trust you. Sometimes you've got to think, are you the right person to be having this conversation in terms of illness, sickness, So, whilst you can understand it, maybe some other people that you need to bring in at certain times. A really good example of this is if perhaps you've got, like myself, a man of a certain age, perhaps isn't the best person to talk to a young 20-year-old about certain sickness and illnesses that, really are very personal. I may not be the best person to deal with those. And also to remember that you can't resolve everyone's problems. You can understand, but don't think as a manager that you have to resolve all their problems. So step 4 is really looking at the solution, next steps. And it's important that you do leave that conversation with what they're going to go and do. Do they need to go and get some support and advice, perhaps on sickness and health issues? Perhaps it may be that if there's redundancies, is there any support the company's doing? Is there any ways that you can help them? Don't jump in with all the solutions too quickly on those types of things. You may say, look, you may need some time, obviously, to go and think about this. Let's catch up at the end of the week. Think about what you can do to help them, as well as what they can do for themselves. Who else can help within the organisation or externally? And I think this is really quite important. Always follow up. When you have a courageous conversation, don't just have the conversation and think, oh, thank goodness that's over. I don't need to deal with it anymore. No, that isn't the case. You've always got to follow up. So step 4 is about those solutions. But I think whatever solutions you come up with, you can't solve all their problems. Remember, you're not a trained counsellor. You're a manager. It doesn't stop you understanding, but you can't solve everyone's problems. Thank them for their time if it's been a difficult conversation, and be available going forward, as I've said. What next in terms of what they're going to do, what you can do, and support can be given. But then say, why don't we catch up in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, whatever is suitable for the situation. Be there for your people. So thank you for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you on 2 other videos that we've got on this subject. One is about having difficult conversations on perhaps people are demotivated in the working environment, and the other one is providing feedback on negative and poor performance.